Russian business tycoon Pavel Durov was arrested on 24th of August as he arrived in Paris on his private jet from Azerbaijan. Although released after 4 days of questioning, his arrest led to a diplomatic furor between France, the UAE, and Russia. It has also triggered scathing criticism on the attack on free speech by state machinery from the likes of Elon Musk and Edward Snowden. In my opinion, the case of Durov is rather curious. Originally, he is Russian, but he holds citizenship with France, the UAE, and some Caribbean islands as well. Now, for those of you who do not know about him, Durov is a billionaire and a CEO of Telegram, a messaging platform co-founded with his talented coder brother Nikolai. Now, Telegram remains one of the most popular messaging apps globally and has been under the scanner of the French authorities since November 2023. And even before that, in 2022, German authorities had fined Telegram with 5 million euros for failing to comply with German law. So let's take a look at the many shades of Pavel Durov. He's quite an enigma himself. He leads an unusual lifestyle. He claims to have fathered over 100 children through sperm donations. Otherwise, he leads an ascetic life with strict dietary and personal restrictions. But despite his image, the French police have alleged that he has actually raped a child. So the new age ascetic billionaire with apparent personality paradoxes was about a month away from turning 40 when he got arrested by French authorities at the Le Bourget airport in Paris. And he faced serious charges. What were those charges? Refusal to share data on alleged transactions of financial crimes on Telegram, drug trafficking, and among others, selling and indulging in sexual crimes against children. As per the latest reports, the French authorities have indicted him with 6 charges related to a range of illicit activities on Telegram. France follows the EU's Digital Services Act, which was enacted in 2022, which requires the moderation of social media content by its owners. This law makes it mandatory for owners of social media platforms to comply with state authorities when a criminal matter comes to light. The law clearly stipulates that companies can be held accountable for the content that appears on their platforms. So for now, Durov has been released from custody on a 5 million euro bail. But he's forbidden from leaving France and has to notify his presence at the police station twice a week. Now, following the chain of these events, an intriguing question comes to mind. The charges against Durov date back to November 2023 at least. After a fresh investigation ensued in February 2024, which is this year, French authorities had issued arrest warrants for Durov and his brother Nikolai on 25th of March this year. The bottom line here is he always knew that he would get arrested if he traveled to France, but he still did. So something about this very nonchalant visit to Paris from Baku in Azerbaijan doesn't really add up. Even if his real intentions and fate are not known at the moment, there is certainly more to this James Hadley Chase kind of thriller of a Russian boy's journey to becoming a free speech absolutist billionaire. He raked in money playing hide and seek with the most sensitive and explosive phenomena of our times, which is data and its regulation. While reflecting on Durov's rise to unprecedented prominence and his apparent fall from grace, one's thoughts revisit the argument made by Yuval Harari in his magnum opus, The Homo Deus. The current epoch is indeed marked by the unbridled power of data flows over the future of human societies. Whoever controls data flows actually holds the key to money, power, influence, and crime. In plain words, it determines the very basis of human life in emerging global digital order. This actually remains a new leviathan, an untamable headless monster, and perhaps the biggest challenge before human endeavor in its journey into technocratic time. Data flows post-Westphalian by their very nature do not ascribe to national boundaries or passport identities. The orderless interface of man versus technology runs amok, with uncontrollable repercussions for one and all until fair regulatory frameworks can emerge. The paradox here is that regulation of data remains a question of ethics. But before that, what has been the making of the Durov phenomena? Let's dig a little bit in his history. Durov's rise to fame dates back to pre-Telegram days. He was regarded as a teenage prodigy with an individualistic tech nerd supporting free speech kind of attitude. He founded the Russian version of Facebook, which was called the VKontakte, in 2006. His brother Nikolai was the one who wrote the codes, and Durov built the Russian Facebook empire to its helm. However, the Durov brothers' commitment to freedom of speech often clashed with President Putin's regime. It turned murky with the 2013-14 Maidan revolution when Kyiv's Vox Populi, which is Kyiv's people, stood up in mass uprising against Kremlin-backed regime of Viktor Yanukovych. This is happening in Ukraine in 2013. Evidently, contrary to Russian interests, VKontakte was pressured by the Russian authorities to divulge the details of those who had participated in the Maidan revolution, a directive that the Durov brothers denied as long as they could before deciding to let go of VKontakte and leave Russia in 2014. But by then they had learned the lesson. Durov had founded a new platform, now Telegram, that was particularly suited to engaging and expressing mass public opinion. It enabled the sharing of really huge files. It allowed for the creation of enormous groups with more than hundreds of thousands of members and allowed for chat log to be unretrievable, keeping the user's identity hidden and safe from state scrutiny. The Durov brothers again ran in trouble with Putin in 2018, refusing to share the personal details of their users. But finally, they complied somewhat in 2020, and of course it shows that they were wary of the earlier experience with VKontakte. So unfortunately, but expectedly, however, in the interregnum between 2013 to 2023, the Telegram app, due to its algorithm protecting the user's identity and exchanges with others, grew into a safe haven for all kinds of illegal activities, leading to the events that resulted in Durov's arrest recently. And this arrest led to quite a diplomatic tamasha of sorts. Attack on the freedom of speech is easily the most obvious rebuttal to Durov's arrest. But the interesting bit here is who it came from and why. Now, talking about Elon Musk, who has been one of the most vocal critics of Durov's arrest, he has been particularly unforgiving of France's alleged high-handedness. But what is not really so well known is that he has a personal axe to grind with the European regulations. The EU has been probing excess violations of the Digital Services Act as well as the EU's rules encountering illegal content. The irony, however, is that these are the same voices in Russia that drove Durov out of the country for his support to Maidan in 2013. What really irks Moscow here is that Telegram remains the de facto communication platform within the Russian army in Ukraine. In fact, I myself go to Telegram to cross-check all the happenings that are happening in the war. So obviously, there is some unease in the Kremlin over details that could be leaked to Western media. Naturally, they are opposing Durov's arrest, invoking free speech. But there is also an Indian angle in all this. You see, by hook or by crook, a crackdown on Telegram has been a boon for India. Lately, anti-India content had been increasing on the app. It had become the go-to site for terrorist organizations such as Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba. Since 2024, particularly, it seemed to have become a platform to access videos and other graphic details of heart-wrenching terrorist attacks on Indian armed forces in Jammu and Kashmir. It has already been reported several times that outfits related directly or indirectly to ISIS and Al-Qaeda have been using Telegram to recruit jihadi elements. The situation had deteriorated to such an extent last year that India's Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology had issued a legal notice to Telegram in last year, which is 2023, directing it to remove material related to children's sexual abuse. What we need to understand is that part of this crisis is rooted in the very structure of this app, which allows for these kinds of activities, including illegal activity, to be carried out unbridled and away from the state's reach. The Durov episode underscores just how unprepared and vulnerable the world is to unregulated digital undoing, oscillating between extremes of free speech on the one hand and goriest of crimes on the other. Even if universal regulation around it seems far, the learning is here to be imbibed by all of us. The link to my article is given in the description box for those who are interested in checking references and further reading. I will be back to discuss European technopolitics amid this ambivalent geopolitical churning. Stay tuned.